alien Empress furious as humanity unveils 29,009 supercarriers, top HFY stories. The galaxy had long known of humanity's impressive capabilities, but even their most dedicated admirers hadn't anticipated what would come next. It began as a whisper, a rumor carried on the winds of interstellar trade routes. Humanity, the chatter said, is preparing something massive on the outskirts of known space, beyond the reach of the Intergalactic Council. The Empress of the Zorith, an alien empire known for their vast military fleets and domineering presence, scoffed at the notion. She had seen the human military before. Their fleets no larger than a small Zorith battalion. Primitive, unrefined, nothing to worry about. The Zorith had been at war with countless species, and their power was unquestionable. But when the news broke, the galaxy trembled. The United Earth Federation, in a unified effort across the many nations of humanity, had just unveiled something that had never been seen before, an armada of 29,009 supercarriers. Each supercarrier was a floating city, capable of housing millions of soldiers, fighters, and drones, with weaponry that could obliterate entire planets. These ships were not just the pinnacle of human engineering, they were a symbol of humanity's defiance, an answer to anyone who thought they were weak. The supercarriers had been built in secrecy for decades, their construction hidden within the farthest reaches of space, and now they were ready. The first reports reached Empress Zorovek's palace on Zorith Prime, where she sat on her throne, surrounded by her most trusted generals and advisors. At first, they assumed it was a joke. How could the primitive humans have achieved such a feat? Then came the footage. The first supercarrier emerged from its hidden dockyards, followed by the second, then the third, and the numbers kept climbing. The Zorith fleet, known for its unmatched firepower, had never seen anything like it. Each human ship dwarfed even their largest warships in size and firepower. A single fleet of supercarriers would be more than a match for the entire Zorith armada. Zorovek's fury exploded. They dare? She spat, her eyes burning with hatred. They think they can challenge us with these metal beasts? She slammed her fist onto her throne, causing the entire room to shake. Prepare the fleet, prepare everything. We will crush this human insolence in one fell swoop. But even as she raged, the Zorith generals whispered amongst themselves. Something wasn't right. The humans, known for their unpredictable ingenuity, had always surprised their enemies. But this was something different. The sheer scale of the supercarriers was a threat that none had ever expected. In the vastness of space, the human fleet began to mobilize. Thousands of smaller ships, fleets of fighter craft, and swarms of drones formed around the 29,009 supercarriers, forming a blockade the likes of which no one had ever seen. Humanity wasn't just showing off their strength, they were preparing for something bigger. They were preparing for war. Across the galaxy, representatives from every corner of the known universe watched as humanity took its place among the stars. The Zorith Empress, so used to being the apex predator in the galaxy, now saw herself as the hunted. The human fleet began to move toward the Zorith homeworld, their intentions clear. As the first wave of supercarriers reached the edge of Zorith space, Empress Zorovek stood on the balcony of her palace, staring into the void. Her people were ready, but even she could feel the tension. She had underestimated humanity. I have made a grave mistake, she muttered under her breath. But it was too late. The humans had proven their worth. They had revealed their hand not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. They were tired of being looked down upon, tired of being the prey in the galaxy. They had a message: humanity was no longer to be underestimated. The Zorith fleet engaged, but it was futile. Humanity's supercarriers, with their overwhelming firepower and relentless determination, tore through the Zorith lines. Each ship was a fortress, each carrier a symbol of humanity's tenacity, their desire to survive, and their refusal to be subjugated. In the end, Empress Zorovek had no choice but to surrender. She watched, helpless, as humanity, against all odds, rose to dominance. The galaxy had witnessed the true strength of humanity, and even the most powerful alien empire had to bow to their might. The story of how humanity revealed its 29,009 supercarriers would go down in history, not as a mere military victory, but as a declaration. It was the moment the galaxy learned that humanity would never again be a victim. Humanity had ascended. Humanity's dawn, the aftermath of the Great Victory. The Zorith Empire, once the uncontested rulers of vast swaths of the galaxy, now found itself in a new reality. The surrender of Empress Zorivek was only the beginning of a larger shift. The balance of power had been irrevocably altered, and the ripples of humanity's sudden ascendancy were felt across the stars. In the wake of the Zorith Empire's capitulation, a new chapter in galactic history was written. The humans, with their 29,009 supercarriers now spread across the galaxy, had become a superpower unlike any other. Their presence was felt everywhere, from the border systems of the Xyloth Dominion to the trade routes of the Kveric traders. It wasn't just about military might anymore, it was about humanity's unrelenting will to survive and thrive. Humanity's demands were clear: no more subjugation, no more second-class status. The terms of the surrender stipulated that the Zorith Empire would dismantle its military infrastructure, cease its expansionist policies, and recognize humanity as an equal power in the galaxy. But the message wasn't just directed at the Zorith. It was aimed at every species that had ever thought the humans were a passing curiosity, a species that could be easily ignored or crushed. The Intergalactic Council, the governing body that oversaw relations between the galaxy's most powerful species, convened in an emergency session. Representatives from the Vrethari Combine, the Arthen Conclave, and the Myrrk Dominion, three of the oldest and most powerful galactic civilizations, watched humanity's rise with a mixture of trepidation and curiosity. "This cannot stand," said Supreme Speaker Ilian Tesh of the Vrethari Combine, his voice a deep rumble that resonated throughout the council chamber. "We cannot allow humanity to become an unchecked force. They must be contained. Their fleets are an affront to the natural order." A representative from the Myrrk Dominion, a tall, translucent being with flowing blue tendrils, nodded in agreement. The Zorith were a threat, but they were manageable. These humans, however, they've shown a capability that none of us anticipated. But the humans were not interested in domination for its own sake. They had no desire to conquer or enslave. Their purpose was simple: equality. They wanted to be respected, to secure their place in the galaxy without fear of being wiped out by the next empire that rose to power. "Let them try," Captain Lila Farrow, a human military leader, said with a wry smile as she addressed her fellow officers aboard the flagship Defiant. "They can try to stop us, but we're done playing by their rules. They've all underestimated us for far too long. Now, they're going to learn." The first step in humanity's transformation from the hunted to the hunter was the formation of the United Galactic Federation, a coalition of planets and systems that had once been part of Earth's original territories. The newly formed federation sought to bring stability to the galaxy, not through war, but through diplomacy, trade, and mutual defense. It became a beacon for every species that had been marginalized by the traditional powers. One by one, former enemies of humanity came to the table. Some were hesitant, unsure of how to approach this new, powerful species. Others were more eager, seeing an opportunity for new alliances and the benefits of being on humanity's good side. Over time, the diplomatic might of humanity's leaders, backed by the overwhelming presence of their fleets, allowed them to broker peace and establish relations with previously isolated species. But not everyone was willing to accept humanity's new status. The Orvok warlords, a nomadic and brutal species known for their bloodthirsty raids and pirate fleets, saw the human rise as an immediate threat to their way of life. They vowed to fight humanity for control of the Outer Rim worlds, and in a devastating campaign of attrition, they tested the resolve of humanity's military. It was a war that spanned years, but humanity's new fleets, vastly superior in technology and coordination, proved more than a match for the Orvok hordes. The humans fought with a kind of precision and efficiency that baffled their enemies. The Supercarriers, once a symbol of humanity's defiance, were now fully operational, each one a fortress capable of bringing devastation to entire fleets. The Orvok were finally crushed, their forces scattered, their leadership broken. But even in victory, humanity never lost sight of the greater picture. They weren't interested in subjugating the Orvok or exterminating them. Instead, the United Galactic Federation offered them a path to reintegration, a chance for the Orvok to become part of the galactic community under the strict terms of peace. Slowly but surely, the galaxy began to change. Humanity's rise had not only altered the balance of power, it had redefined what it meant to be a galactic power. The old empires, once so sure of their dominance, now found themselves re-evaluating their positions. The Zorith Empire, still reeling from its defeat, was forced to adapt. Its military in tatters and its influence diminished. They were no longer the only force to be reckoned with. As the years passed, humanity's role in the galaxy only grew stronger. Their fleets patrolled the stars, ensuring that peace prevailed where it could, but also making it clear that any empire or species that sought to infringe on their autonomy would face the full wrath of the 29,009 Supercarriers. Humanity was not a passive observer in the cosmos anymore. They had earned their place among the stars, and they would fight to keep it. And on Earth, in the heart of the United Galactic Federation, a new generation of leaders rose. They were not warlords or conquerors, but diplomats, scientists, and visionaries. They had seen the destructive potential of humanity's rise, but they had also seen the opportunity for a new kind of peace, a peace built not on fear, but on mutual respect and cooperation. Humanity had unleashed its might, but it was now shaping the future of the galaxy, a future where they were not the weakest species, but the stewards of a more united cosmos. They had become more than just survivors, they had become the guardians of peace, the keepers of the stars. The galaxy had witnessed their fury. Now, it would witness their wisdom. And in the darkness of space, the stars shone brighter, as humanity's legacy grew ever more unstoppable. Humanity's future, the rise of galactic diplomacy. As the dust of the recent wars began to settle, a new era unfolded in the galaxy. The United Galactic Federation, under the leadership of Earth's most capable diplomats and visionaries, became a beacon of peace and stability. Humanity's unmatched military might, built upon the strength of the 29,009 Supercarriers, was now tempered with an unwavering commitment to diplomacy, trade, and cooperation. The Federation's first act, after securing its place as a galactic power, was to establish the Galactic Council. This new body, consisting of representatives from various planets and species, was intended to replace the fractured and outdated intergalactic council that had once been dominated by old empires and warlords. Humanity's influence was undeniable, but the Federation was clear: power was nothing without responsibility. The first few years were marked by delicate negotiations. Former enemies, such as the Xyloth Dominion and the Arthen Conclave, had watched humanity's rise with suspicion. Yet, as the Federation's diplomats worked tirelessly to forge alliances, they began to realize that humanity was different. The human diplomats didn't just speak of peace, they lived it. Captain Lila Farrow, one of the foremost military leaders during the rise of humanity's fleet, had transitioned into a position of power within the United Galactic Federation. She had a reputation for pragmatism and calm in the face of the most heated discussions. Under her leadership, humanity offered technology and knowledge to the galaxy's weaker species, sharing the tools that had made their civilization strong without demanding tribute or subjugation in return. "It's about creating something greater than ourselves," Farrow said during one of her speeches to the Galactic Council. "We're not just building a fleet of supercarriers, we're building relationships, trust, and hope for a future where no one species dominates the rest. Together, we can face the challenges of the universe, together." Her words resonated across the galaxy, and slowly, even the most skeptical species began to warm to the idea of cooperation. The Kveric traders, once notorious for their cutthroat tactics, now sought partnerships with human manufacturers. The MYR Dominion, long regarded as a mysterious and reclusive race, sent diplomats to Earth to establish trade routes. Encouraged by the prosperity the Federation had ushered into their own worlds, even the Zorith, having long been humiliated, began tentative steps toward reconstruction and reintegration, albeit under close scrutiny from the Federation. Yet, not every species was eager to embrace the changes. The Vrethari Combine, one of the galaxy's oldest and most traditional empires, could not accept the fact that they were no longer the dominant force. While their public statements spoke of peace, their private actions told a different story. Military buildups along their borders were the first signs that they might not play by the Federation's rules. Their shadowy leader, Supreme Speaker Ilian Tesh, knew that the Vrethari Combine had two choices: adapt or fall behind. He began a campaign to rally his people against humanity's rise. preaching that the supercarriers and the Federation's ideals were a direct threat to their way of life. He invoked the ancient tradition of the Vrethery, their belief that the strongest should rule. The Federation, now on high alert, initiated a series of talks with the Vrethery. Diplomats from Earth, along with representatives from the Myrk Dominion and Kverik traders, gathered at a neutral station on the edges of Vrethery space. Despite their aggressive posturing, the Vrethery had not yet made any overt moves, and the Federation was determined to keep the peace. Captain Pharaoh herself led the delegation. "We don't want war," she told the Vrethery Council during their first meeting. "We want collaboration. You don't have to be the biggest or the strongest to lead, you can lead with wisdom, with compassion. This galaxy has room for all of us, if we choose to make room." Her calm presence was a stark contrast to the aggressive rhetoric of the Vrethery delegates. But as the days turned into weeks, the stubborn Vrethery began to listen. Still, old habits die hard, and Tesh's calls for resistance had grown stronger within his ranks. It would take more than mere diplomacy to bring the Vrethery into the fold. It wasn't until a minor crisis, an accidental skirmish on the neutral border between Vrethery and Federation space, that the true test of humanity's diplomatic resolve came. The incident had the potential to escalate quickly, and both sides prepared for battle. However, it was humanity's intervention that turned the tide. Using their influence within the Galactic Council, Earth's diplomats brokered a ceasefire in record time, preventing the outbreak of a full-scale war. The turning point came when Captain Pharaoh, having been briefed on the incident, made a bold decision. Instead of simply negotiating from behind closed doors, she took to the front lines, physically and symbolically, by personally meeting with the Vrethery officers involved. Her message was simple but powerful: "We are not your enemies. We are the future of this galaxy, and we choose peace." Pharaoh's willingness to take such a personal risk won her the respect of even the most hardened Vrethery commanders. And for the first time, many began to see the wisdom in her words. Perhaps strength could be measured in more ways than just fleets and firepower. Perhaps there was strength in diplomacy, in collaboration, in doing what was right, even when it was difficult. By the time the peace talks concluded, the Vrethery Combine agreed to join the Federation, though with several stipulations. Their autonomy would remain, but they would abide by the shared principles of peace, cooperation, and mutual defense. The galaxy, now one step closer to unity, was forever changed. In the years that followed, humanity's role as a peacekeeper, a unifier, and a beacon of hope only strengthened. The 29,009 supercarriers, once the symbol of humanity's might, became symbols of its commitment to maintaining peace and ensuring that no species, no matter how large or small, would ever be subjugated again. Humanity had shown the galaxy that it was not the size of the fleet that mattered, but the heart of the people who commanded it. And as each new challenge arose, be it from external threats or internal strife, the United Galactic Federation stood resolute, a shining example of what could be achieved when species, once divided, came together for a common purpose. Humanity's legacy was no longer defined by their warships alone, but by their ability to forge a future where peace, understanding, and cooperation reigned. Humanity's legacy, the dawn of a unified galaxy. Decades passed, and the galaxy began to stabilize under the watchful eyes of the United Galactic Federation. Humanity's presence was now a cornerstone of interstellar politics, not just through military power, but through its unprecedented commitment to peace, diplomacy, and shared prosperity. The 29,009 supercarriers, once a fearsome symbol of humanity's military might, had evolved into the protectors of the galaxy. They were scattered across key strategic points in Federation space, often in orbit around the Federation's most vital worlds, serving as floating symbols of security and a reminder that humanity stood firm against any force that threatened galactic peace. However, with peace came the challenge of maintaining it. While humanity had secured its place at the table, it also faced an increasingly complex political landscape. The once fragmented species that had fought against each other were now forced to coalesce under a single banner, their individual ambitions still clashing. The very unity that humanity had worked to build required constant effort, vigilance, and diplomacy. It was a time of great prosperity for many species, but there were those who still clung to their old ways. The Vrethery Combine, despite their agreement to join the Federation, struggled with internal dissent. Their traditionalist factions, led by figures who still idolized their past as a dominant empire, agitated for greater autonomy and influence. They frequently tested the Federation's resolve with covert operations along the border and within the more independent worlds of their sector. Tensions were high, but humanity's leaders remained patient, knowing that true unity required time and understanding. The Federation responded not with force but with outreach. Diplomatic emissaries, once feared for their military presence, were now known for their wisdom and empathy. Negotiations with the Vrethery had become a delicate dance, requiring constant engagement. While some factions within the Combine would never be fully integrated, others slowly came to appreciate the benefits of unity and shared growth. Meanwhile, the Zorith Empire, having rebuilt after their crushing defeat at humanity's hands, faced their own dilemma. Despite their forced surrender, the Zorith people had been resilient. They had regrouped, fortified their world, and strengthened their economy. Empress Zorovek, once a symbol of hubris and rage, had transitioned into a more pragmatic leader. Under her rule, the Zorith were no longer a purely military-driven empire. They had become an essential part of the Federation's economy, contributing technology and resources that helped fuel the Federation's expansion. However, Zorovek's transformation wasn't without its challenges. Hardliners within her court still harbored resentment toward humanity, some even seeing their submission as an act of humiliation. Yet, despite the whispers of rebellion and unrest, the Zorith continued to thrive within the Federation, largely due to the careful guidance of their Empress. She had learned the value of humility, but the scars of the past still lingered in her heart. Despite the ongoing challenges, humanity's greatest triumph was not in military victories but in the way it had inspired the galaxy. The idea that multiple species could coexist and thrive under shared principles, rather than under the yoke of one supreme empire, was revolutionary. It was the culmination of humanity's belief in collaboration over conquest, empathy over aggression. The 29,009 Supercarriers, once instruments of war, had become monuments to the possibility of a peaceful future, each one a bastion of protection, research, and cultural exchange. As humanity's influence continued to grow, so did the expectations. There were still rogue factions, pirates, and warlords lurking at the fringes of Federation space. The Orvok warlords, having been defeated but not destroyed, had begun to regroup and re-establish their control over the Outer Rim, where the Federation's influence was weakest. But humanity was prepared. The United Galactic Federation had established a formidable peacekeeping force, not just military but also peace officers, scientists, and philosophers, tasked with finding non-violent resolutions to conflicts. The next great challenge came not from outside forces, but from within. Humanity's population had begun to spread throughout the stars at an accelerated pace. Colonies were established on new planets, thriving ecosystems were cultivated, and cities of wonder were built on distant moons. Yet, as with any rapidly growing civilization, cracks began to appear. Not all colonies were thriving. Some began to rebel against what they perceived as overbearing Federation governance. Others felt the Federation's ideals of peace and cooperation had led to a stagnation of innovation, arguing that the galaxy needed more freedom to grow and evolve without the constraints of a unified system. In response, the Federation began an era of self-reflection. Could the vast diversity of the galaxy be truly united under a single banner, or were there limits to the Federation's reach? Humanity, at the forefront of this experiment, had to answer that question. They had proven their might in war and peace, but now they would have to prove their wisdom. The greatest minds of Earth, the MYR Dominion, the Vrethery, and all the other species within the Federation gathered for what was called the Galactic Conclave, a series of discussions and debates on the future of the galaxy. What kind of future did they want to build together? Was peace sustainable in the face of inevitable growth and change? Could there be a balance between autonomy and unity? As these discussions continued, new leaders arose from within humanity's ranks. Not all were former generals or diplomats. Some were visionaries, philosophers who had once studied the stars and the nature of civilizations. One such leader, Dr. Ilara Maris, a human scholar and ambassador to the galaxy, proposed a new path, a federation of federations. We must evolve, Dr. Maris stated during one of the conclave's pivotal moments. The Federation cannot just be one government with one set of rules. It must be a network of interconnected nations, each with its own sovereignty, but bound by a set of universal principles that protect the common good. We will not dictate how each species should live, but we will provide the foundation of peace upon which they can thrive. Her idea sparked debates across the conclave, but it was clear that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its fleets, nor its weapons, but in its adaptability. It was no longer a question of if humanity could lead the galaxy, it was a question of how they would do so. The Federation of Federations would allow for individual growth while maintaining a collective commitment to peace, security, and exploration. In the end, humanity had not just proven its strength in battle but in wisdom. They had transformed the galaxy from one that was divided by ancient rivalries and distrust into a burgeoning community of species who now had the potential to work together, share knowledge, and build a future free from the specter of conquest. And so, as the stars continued to shine brightly above, humanity's legacy was cemented, not as conquerors of the galaxy, but as the architects of a future where all life could thrive in peace and unity. The 29,009 Supercarriers, once feared across the galaxy, had become symbols of humanity's determination not just to survive, but to ensure that every species, every world, could flourish in the ever-expanding cosmos. A new dawn had come, a dawn that would guide the galaxy into a golden age of cooperation, innovation, and peace, forever shaped by the indomitable spirit of humanity. The New Horizon, a future beyond the Federation. As the Federation of Federations began to take shape, it became clear that humanity was no longer just the leading force in the galaxy, it was the heart of a new era. This era would be defined not by conflict or domination but by cooperation, innovation, and exploration. It was a future where every species, regardless of their past, could contribute to a galaxy that thrived together. But as humanity and its allies worked toward creating a more harmonious and balanced galaxy, new questions began to arise. With the expansion of the Federation, so too did the scope of responsibility. How would they maintain unity in the face of cultural and political differences? What would they do when species that had once been enemies or rivals began to grow uneasy about their newfound collaboration? Would the core principles of peace and cooperation hold strong in the face of unforeseen challenges? The shifting tides of power. The first signs of trouble came from an unexpected source, the Aralkai, a species of highly intelligent, long-lived beings known for their mastery of psychic abilities and profound philosophical understanding. The Aralkai had been one of the earliest supporters of the Federation of Federations, but as the years went on, their view of humanity's role in the galaxy began to change. The Aralkai believed that true peace could only be achieved through absolute control of the galaxy's spiritual and mental energies, something they had spent centuries perfecting. They had always been the galaxy's silent observers, offering their wisdom in small doses, never interfering with the natural course of history. But as humanity's rapid ascension to leadership in the Federation became undeniable, the Aralkai began to fear that this unchecked rise was a threat to the balance of galactic life, a balance they had worked to maintain for millennia. Their concerns were voiced not in the form of military threats but in whispers, subtle influences in the hearts and minds of their allies. Some of the younger, more radical Aralkai philosophers began to question whether humanity's presence, with its relentless pursuit of exploration and expansion, might one day tip the cosmic scales in ways that would be irreparable. In a rare move, the Aralkai called for a private summit with the human leadership. Dr. Ilara Maris, now the head of the Federation's diplomatic corps, was tasked with meeting with the Aralkai's ruling council. Despite her calm demeanor, she knew this was not going to be an easy discussion. The Aralkai were not easily swayed, and their long-term view of the galaxy sometimes placed them at odds with more immediate, pragmatic concerns. The summit took place on an Aralkai world, an ancient planet surrounded by shimmering energy fields. The meeting was tense, and the Aralkai's concerns were voiced not just through their words, but through the intricate network of mental projections they shared with Maris. They believed humanity's unyielding desire to push boundaries was stirring up untold forces, both within the galaxy and beyond it. "We have seen the potential for imbalance," the leader of the Aralkai Council, Valcora, said in a voice that reverberated with centuries of wisdom. The rapid expansion of your kind is a disturbance in the natural order. What you see as progress, we see as a destabilization of the very fabric of existence. Dr. Maris listened carefully, her mind processing the deep, almost unspoken layers of their message. She knew the Aralkai had a point. Humanity's desire to push the limits of knowledge and exploration was sometimes reckless, driven by curiosity and ambition rather than a deep understanding of the consequences. I understand your concerns, Maris said, her voice steady, but we do not seek to disturb the balance. We seek to build it. The Federation is not a tool of conquest, nor will we ever allow it to become one. We wish for a future where we, and all species, can thrive. If our actions are causing unintended harm, we are open to dialogue and willing to change course. The conversation continued for days, with Maris and the Aralkai exchanging ideas on how to avoid the perils of unchecked expansion. Ultimately, a compromise was reached. The Aralkai would provide humanity and the Federation with their vast knowledge of psychic energies, helping to create an equilibrium between growth and the preservation of the natural galactic order. In return, the Federation would agree to limit certain kinds of exploration that could destabilize the fabric of space and time. This delicate agreement marked a new chapter in the Federation's existence. It was a reminder that the path to peace was never straightforward, and even the best-intentioned actions could have unintended consequences. It also signaled that humanity was no longer leading from a position of unchecked power, but as stewards of a delicate, ever-changing balance. New frontiers. Despite the challenges within Federation space, there was another force at work beyond the stars, an unknown, enigmatic force that had begun to stir in the far reaches of the galaxy. It was a force that had been long forgotten by most, an ancient civilization whose technology had once rivaled that of the oldest and most advanced species. These ancient beings had left their mark on the galaxy long before the rise of the Federation. They were the Karkai, a species whose ruins were scattered across uncharted regions, their once thriving worlds now lost to time. The discovery of Karkai ruins on the edge of Federation space marked the beginning of a new age of exploration. Humanity's thirst for knowledge and discovery led them to these ancient relics, and the discoveries they made would forever change their understanding of the galaxy. Hidden within these ruins were artifacts of unimaginable power, capable of manipulating spacetime itself, suggesting that the Karkai had achieved a level of understanding of the universe that humanity had only begun to comprehend. As teams of human scientists and explorers began to study these remnants, they realized that the Karkai had vanished not because they were destroyed by war or plague, but because they had chosen to disappear. They had left behind a warning: the path to ultimate knowledge is fraught with peril. The final frontier of the universe lies not in the stars, but in the mind of those who dare to look. This revelation sparked a new era in human thought, one where science and spirituality began to merge, and where the Federation, with its vast and diverse collection of species, could now explore not just the galaxy, but the very fabric of existence itself. The possibilities seemed endless, and for the first time in centuries, humanity found itself not just standing at the helm of the galaxy, but at the very edge of something far greater. The legacy of humanity. As the years continued to pass, the Federation expanded its reach even further. The once feared 29,009 supercarriers were no longer just instruments of war or peacekeeping. They had become centers of exploration and learning, where scholars and diplomats from across the galaxy came to share knowledge and engage in meaningful exchanges. The ships that had once symbolized humanity's violent struggle for survival had now transformed into emblems of cooperation, diplomacy, and shared discovery. Humanity's legacy was no longer defined by the number of battles won or enemies defeated, but by the profound impact they had on the galaxy. They had proven that strength could be used for peace, that exploration could be a journey of understanding, and that the true power of a species lay in its ability to adapt, learn, and grow alongside others. The new threat echoes from the void. The galaxy that humanity had helped to create, one of peace and progress, was not without its dangers. After the discovery of the Karkai remnants, the Federation of Federations expanded its horizons in ways no one had anticipated. The unity that had once seemed unbreakable began to face new, unforeseen challenges. The Karkai ruins and the mysterious artifacts that humanity had unearthed were more than just relics of a bygone civilization. they were a key to a deeper understanding of the universe. The secrets of space-time manipulation and advanced quantum technology hinted at powers that could transcend even the galaxy's most established forces. But the deeper humanity ventured into this mystery, the more they realized that the Carkai were not simply lost to time, they had disappeared for a reason. It wasn't long before a chilling realization set in: whatever had caused the Carkai to vanish was still out there, in the dark corners of the galaxy, waiting. As the Federation's scientists worked to unlock more of the ancient technologies, they began to detect faint, anomalous signals emanating from the farthest reaches of space, beyond even the outer rim. These signals were unlike anything the Federation had encountered. They were not random, nor were they naturally occurring. Someone, or something, was deliberately sending them. The first encounter. The anomaly was first detected near the Nebulan Expanse, a region of space known for its thick gas clouds and volatile conditions. Federation scouts had been sent to investigate, initially expecting a natural phenomenon, but what they found would send shockwaves through the galaxy. A massive structure, previously undetected, was discovered embedded in the heart of the Nebulan Expanse. It was a colossal black monolith, far larger than any known station or ship. The structure's surface was smooth, made of a material that could not be identified by Federation sensors. And perhaps most unsettling of all, the structure seemed to radiate an energy signature that was eerily similar to the energy fields discovered in the Carkai ruins. Humanity's greatest minds, along with experts from other Federation species, gathered to analyze the structure. Captain Alara Maris, now an ambassador of peace and a symbol of humanity's diplomatic efforts, was among those who led the investigation. As the Federation's top diplomat and a trusted leader, she understood the significance of this discovery. The galaxy had long since believed that the Carkai were merely an ancient race that had disappeared. Now, it seemed they had left behind a legacy far darker than anyone had imagined. Maris and her team, equipped with the most advanced technology available, boarded a specially designed vessel to approach the monolith. What they found inside confirmed their worst fears. Inside the structure was a device, ancient and enigmatic, connected to a network of dark energy. The device itself was dormant, but scans revealed an intricate, almost living system, one that appeared to be linked to the very fabric of spacetime. It was a weapon unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. In a split second, the team realized the horror of what they had uncovered. This wasn't just a relic of a lost species, it was the key to an unimaginable power, capable of ripping apart the galaxy's very structure. Worse still, the anomaly detected at the edges of the Nebulan Expanse was only the beginning. Something was calling out through the device, something that could only be described as an intelligence, a presence, lurking in the deepest voids of space. A new threat emerges. The Federation moved quickly to contain the discovery. A special task force, including members from various species, was assembled to guard the monolith and ensure it would not fall into the wrong hands. However, as the Federation leaders pondered the significance of the weapon, a chilling event occurred. The signal emanating from the Nebulan Expanse suddenly intensified, turning from a faint echo into a clear, organized pulse. It was then that the galaxy began to feel the first stirrings of a new threat, one far older, far more dangerous, and far more intelligent than anything the Federation had ever faced. The presence behind the anomaly revealed itself. It was not a single entity, but a collective and ancient, galaxy-spanning intelligence known as the Carvac. This intelligence had existed long before the rise of the Carkai, perhaps even before the formation of the galaxy itself. The Carvac were not creatures of flesh and blood, but beings of pure consciousness, existing in the void between the stars. They were the first sentients, and they had watched the rise and fall of countless civilizations throughout the ages. For eons, the Carvac had been dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The discovery of the Carkai's technology and the human interest in exploring the fabric of spacetime had stirred them from their long slumber. And now, they were coming. The awakening of the Carvac. The Carvac did not announce their presence in conventional ways. They communicated through the manipulation of space and time itself, warping reality in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Planets suddenly shifted their orbits. Time itself seemed to stretch and contract. Ships that ventured too close to the anomaly would disappear, only to reappear hours or even days later, disoriented and confused. The Carvax influence was creeping throughout the galaxy, and no one knew how to stop it. The Federation's best minds began to analyze the threat. The Carvac were not interested in domination in the traditional sense. They did not require resources or power, they sought something far more dangerous: knowledge. The Carvac's ancient civilization had unlocked the deepest mysteries of the universe, but they had done so at a great cost. The very fabric of space-time had begun to unravel in the wake of their experiments. Entire galaxies had been destroyed in their pursuit of understanding. Now, the Carvac sought to learn from the galaxy's new inhabitants. They wanted to absorb the collective knowledge of the Federation's civilizations, to experience the minds of every sentient being in the galaxy. The Carvac believed that this would give them the ultimate understanding of existence and bring them closer to a new level of ascension. The galaxy's peace was now in jeopardy. The Federation, for the first time in its history, faced an enemy that could not be reasoned with through diplomacy or defeated by military might. The Carvac were not conquerors, they were seekers, and their desire for knowledge was all-consuming. Humanity's final stand. The Federation could not wait for the Carvac to act. Humanity, once the architects of a united galaxy, now had to confront the impossible. Their ships were no match for the Carvac's ability to manipulate space and time, and even their most powerful supercarriers couldn't withstand the strange anomalies the Carvac were creating. The Federation had to act quickly, and humanity, as always, would lead the charge. Captain Alara Maris, alongside the Federation's brightest minds, began the development of a new plan. They would take the fight to the Carvac. But the fight would not be fought with weapons or fleets. Instead, humanity would turn to the one thing the Carvac had underestimated: human ingenuity, creativity, and the capacity for unity in the face of the unknown. Humanity would not let the galaxy fall to this ancient intelligence. They would use the very knowledge that the Carvac craved against them, fighting not just for survival, but for the future of the galaxy itself. The final chapter of humanity's journey was about to unfold, and as the stars flickered in the vast reaches of space, the galaxy would see once again that humanity's greatest strength was not in its fleets, but in its unyielding spirit.